good evening. Welcome once again to Smash2piece Theatre. What's my name again? Alistair Cook. I'm Alistair Cook. This is a podcast in which we watch a piece of classic cinema, review it while smashing it to pieces, if you will, tearing it apart. This delightful program is hosted by Thomas Van Zant and Nate the Aussie Appleby. In this episode, we'll be looking at the classic Christmas film, Die Hard. Die Hard Christmas film, really, folks. Starring Bruce Willis as John McClane, the everyday police officer stuck in a building going up against the devilish terrorist Alan Rickman in one of the most classic of classic action films. Enjoy. Or should I say, enjoy as we smash it to pieces.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Thank you again, Ghost of Alistair Cook. This is Smash2piece Theatre, episode number 2. How about that? I am Tom Van Zant, your host, and with me is the Aussie himself, Mr. Nate Appleby. What's going on, Nate?
G'day, Tom. Not a lot. I'm very happy with how the first episode went, and I'm happy that we're actually getting together and doing episode 2.
That's half the battle, isn't it? Actually putting out a second episode. That means we're actually in it to win it.
Exactly. And I think you need to start introducing yourself as angry or arrogant Tom Van Zant.
Arrogant American Tom Van Zant?
Yes.
All right, fair enough. How you been?
Yeah, I've been really good. I've been getting a lot of positive feedback off Twitter for the podcast that we did. I can't say too much about your two co-hosts, though. They can get stuffed.
No, there was a lot of hatred on last week's episode. Not Another Nerdy Podcast, wasn't there?
Yeah, jealousy's a curse, Tom. Jealousy's a curse.
A lot of jealousy going on, I believe.
That's exactly right. Anyway, like we said, if they actually listen to our first episode, we're more than happy to get other people on, and we will in future episodes.
Absolutely. Well, first I want to give a shout out to our announcer, because I made a mistake and I didn't give him a shout out in last week's episode. But shout out to Mr. Iron Farmer Mike Abadamarco. Some of you may know him from the Not Another Nerdy podcast. He's an occasional co-host for us, and he was good enough to be our announcer on Smash2piece Theatre. So thank you, Iron Mike. You do a bang-up job, hell of a job, as the ghost of Alistair Cook.
It's almost the highlight of the podcast, to be honest, which is not taking anything away from what we've done. Just he did a great job with that English accent, and I couldn't be happier with it.
He's a treasure, that Iron Mike. He's a treasure. So, yeah, why don't we take a quick moment and shout out our other podcasts? I mean, obviously, this podcast is on the Aussie and the Palm Network.
Yeah.
The ever-expanding Aussie and the Palm Network. But why don't you tell everyone out there where they can find all things Aussie and the Palm?
Well, to be honest, Tom, I'm going to get virtual Mrs. Pom to do it again, I think. She did such a good job last time, I'm just going to get her to do it again. So, here she is.
G'day, this is Nate from Aussie and the Pom. Only joking, but I bet I had you fooled there. This is Mrs. Palm. Make sure you check out all things social media. You can tweet us at Aussie_the Palm, or on Facebook and SoundCloud and iTunes, you can search Aussie and the Palm. You can also find out everything and more on our website, aussieandthepalm.com, where you'll find lots of things such as movie reviews and every episode that these guys have ever recorded. Hours of fun. Ta-ra now.
Voice of an angel, that Mrs. Palm.
That she does. And where can people find your podcast, Tom? Not Another Dirty Podcast.
Well, I'm going to actually defer to the expert of social media presence when it comes to all things Not Another Nerdy, and that would be Virtual J Money. So, Virtual J Money, why don't you tell these fine listeners where they can find all things Not Another Nerdy Podcast?
Okay, Tom. As always, you can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/NotPodcast1. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Twitter, both at NotPodcast1. We are on Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Stitcher Radio, Google Play, YouTube, NerdPodcastMafia.com, and we are also on PodKnife.com.
You are so money and you don't even know it.
Thank you, Jay Money.
He does that so well.
He really does. That's why I always defer to him. You can't improve upon perfection, so just let him do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Even though he shit-talked our new podcast and shit-talked the name, made fun of the name.
Oh, well, you can't please everyone, Tom, so we'll just move on and not worry about it. But a little bit about the Aussie and Pom Network. I'll just quickly touch on that. We didn't mean to start one. It just sort of happened. And now we've got 3 shows a week. So it's happening. And we're trying to get up to 7.
Oh, there you go. 7 days a week. I like it.
Yeah. Kelly from your show the other night said she wants 7 shows a week. So at least if we can fill another 6 in, plus not another nerdy podcast, that's 7. And she'd be right for the whole week. So
that's a good goal.
It is. Can't see it happening, but it's a goal.
I'm more than willing to record other podcasts. I'm just not editing anymore. That's I do mine, and that's it. That's enough.
Yeah. Well, I edit mine, and I edit the majority of this one, apart from the intro. So, yeah. And I'm not doing any more.
Yep, but you do a hell of a job.
Thank you.
All right. Well, as Mr. Alistair Cook mentioned in the intro there, we are doing a fucking classic of a movie this week, Nate.
It was the first movie that I can remember saying, wow, this is actually what movies are meant to be like.
It almost defined the 80s action movies.
Absolutely.
And it's got one of the most iconic action scenes with that rooftop scene towards the end. I mean, everybody knows that scene and thinks of that scene when they think of the movie Die Hard, the Christmas classic, if you will, that we will be smashing to pieces for you this evening.
Smash!
I can't wait.
That's right. So why waste any time? We've gotten the social media out of the way. We've gotten our pleasantries out of the way. Why don't we just kick it off straight away? Why don't we do it? Why don't you go first, Nate?
All right, I'll go first. Pretty much the very first scene is him on the plane, correct?
I believe that is correct.
Yeah, I only watched it like 2 hours ago, so it should be correct. I should have that firmly planted in my mind.
Yes.
But let's be honest.
It's confusing because in Die Hard 2, he's in a plane, so it's...
No, his wife's in a plane.
Oh, that's true. And he's at the airport, yeah.
That's exactly right. So my first gripe is that no one talks to the person next to him in a plane.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little nitpicking. And he's the reason, that dickhead that told him to take his shoes off, that all this bad stuff happens pretty much.
Yes, no.
This movie is based on a lie.
That dickhead in the airplane is the reason John had to run around the entire movie barefoot.
Yeah, I know.
Absolutely. But I think in a way it was good because if he wasn't rubbing his toes on the rug in the room, he might have been out in the hallway when Hans Gruber and his crew busted in on the joint, and then he would have been captured instantly. So
that's my whole point.
I see. Go ahead.
It's based on a lie. So you don't talk to the person next to you on the plane. He's just talking to his wife. The terrorists come in, take over, and nothing happens. End of movie. Like the terrorists win, Hans Gruber goes home with millions of dollars.
$640 million to be exact.
Exactly. But anyway, it's a bit ridiculous, that nitpick. But I'll throw it over to you if you'd like to have the next nitpick, if you so will.
Oh, I absolutely will. So I'm going to bring us right to Nakatomi Plaza, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
Unless there's something that takes place between the airport and arriving at Nakatomi that you want to pick apart.
Well, I did actually notice that all the crappy jobs at the airport were played by minorities. I thought...
Oh, you are reaching now.
I'm just saying, that's what I saw. So don't shoot the messenger.
Right.
Yeah, anyway, that's the only thing I noticed at the airport.
Okay. Well, this was the 80s. So, stereotypes were everywhere.
Was it indeed? A cop can carry a gun on a plane. He can smoke in an airport.
Exactly.
Oh, you gotta love the 80s.
Not anymore.
Nope. Anyway.
All right. We get to Nakatomi Plaza, and I understand this is taking place in 1988, and I understand it's Bruce Willis who enters the building, but he's supposed to be a character named John McClane. So I have to criticize Nakatomi Plaza's security because it's the worst fucking security in the world.
True.
He walks up to the guy and he says, "I'm here to see Holly McClane."
Correct.
And so he's like, the security guy's like, just type it into the screen there in front of me. So he does, and her name comes up as Holly Gennaro, which gives you the implication and indication that there's trouble in paradise between these two crazy kids. And she's changed her name to her maiden name, and we don't quite know why, but he has a very bad reaction to it. So obviously it's not something he was aware of, and that's how he found out. So he finds it and he says, okay, she's on the 30th floor, and you can take the express elevator right over there. The security guy just points him to the elevator. He doesn't ask who he is, doesn't ask for identification, doesn't have him pass through a metal detector, nothing. There's no security. It's like, you shouldn't even have that guy behind the desk. People should just come and go as they please. Just walk in, walk out, whatever you want to do. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Do you know another thing that's ridiculous about that, Tom?
What else?
After he finds out what floor she's on, he goes, oh yeah, everybody's up on 30th floor at the party. Why did he need to say, put your information in here? Why don't you just say, well, everybody's up on 30, just go up there?
That's right, because everyone else is left. The only people left are on the 30th floor. So obviously, you're here for the party. Yeah. That's what he should have said. Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Don't need to put your name in. But obviously that was a bit of a plot point, just to say that there's a bit of tension between the couple. Exactly.
But you have this lame-ass, horrible security guy, but then you have all these fucking security cameras in the hallways. Like, why? Why bother? Nakatomi Plaza, why bother?
I want to know about the creepy guy just standing next to the lift all the time. Like, what was he doing?
Well, he was another security guy. Another terrible security guy. He just let John fucking stroll on in.
Didn't do anything.
No wonder fucking Hans Gruber was able to take this goddamn building.
Got $640 million upstairs, but don't worry about it.
You have $640 million in bonds in a safe, and that's your security? That's your first line of defense? You fucking idiots. Yeah. So that was my first biggest problem with this movie.
And I'd agree. It was this. I have some issues with that security guard, even a little bit further on in the movie. Like when Hans Gruber and his gang turned up, because they're not terrorists, I should stop calling them that.
No, they're thieves.
They're thieves. They turned up. Did they really need to kill the security guard?
No, I would think they could have found another way to subdue him.
Yeah,
I mean, he wasn't putting up any kind of a fight or struggle.
No, just shot him dead to give it. Just why didn't they just take him up to the 30th floor, tie him up, and he can be up there with the rest of them? Like, didn't need to kill the security guard at all.
Nope. That guy had a wife and kids. He probably had, a whole family to support, and they just wiped them off the face of the earth.
Yeah. And could you tell me what the guy? I know what was that guy doing next to the lift? Was he just smoking or just doing nothing? I don't understand. And because he was there from when John turned up to when the I'm gonna have to call them terrorists because I can't think of another name for him. When the terrorists turned up, like he stood there for about 15 minutes of the movie and he didn't move.
Well, and that was the other thing that I found hilarious. So Carl, the one with the long, lovely locks, he comes up with a silencer. And you're like, okay, well, at least they're trying to be tactful and quiet about this. And then he throws a friggin' flash grenade. Makes a big boom. Like, what's the point of having a silencer, dude? You just made this giant explosion in the hallway to distract the guy so you could kill him. And why was that necessary? You could have just popped around the corner and shot him before he knew what was happening. You didn't need to throw that hockey puck across the floor. It was stupid.
It was, Tom. And there's... I find... smashing a movie to pieces is going to be a lot easier for 80s movies than current movies because there's so much to talk about this movie.
When we picked this movie, I was like, oh boy, that's such a fucking classic. I don't know if we're going to find a lot wrong with it. I have 5 pages of notes. I don't even think the podcast is going to be long enough for me to cover all of this.
Yeah, so we'll try and get through a few at pace. Then I would suggest...
We'll hit the big ones.
All right. Whose turn is it? Your turn?
Well, what scene are we at? Now that Hans and his crew have shown up and they've entered the building.
Yes, and they take Mr.
Tamagotchi.
Yes, and they're trying to get the password for the computer.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets shot
in the head.
I don't know it. I'm telling you. Get on the jet to Tokyo and ask the chairman. I'm telling you, you're just gonna have to kill me.
Okay.
Yeah, fair enough. He was arrogant, like he asked for it. So I've got If you ask for it, it's going to happen.
Exactly. You knew it. You knew it was coming. But so John couldn't stop that. He was hiding in the next room, but he obviously there was nothing he could do, right? I mean, otherwise they would have killed him too. So he runs. He goes up to a floor that's under construction and there's no fucking walls. Yet
No.
he's spinning around with his gun cocked back and forth like he's checking around walls that aren't there.
That's a great point, but you missed the part that after the guy dies, he bumps into something, they hear him, and then he hides in a room and locks the door.
Right.
And then the thugs, Carl and his mates, come over and they get stopped by a locked door. Like, they're
just like, oh, okay, I guess it's just locked.
Yeah.
There's nobody in.
Yeah, like he's meant to be a professional, I'd assume. Like, wouldn't you just bust down the door and check? Oh no, locked. Right. Locked from the inside. Hang on, oh, don't worry about it, there can't be anyone in there. But then, as you said, he went upstairs.
Oh, shit.
I noticed that too. Like, why didn't you could just look around? Oh, no one's here because there are no fucking walls.
So he's up there, right? And, you know, he's hoping that Argyle, his limo driver, who's down in the parking garage, heard the shots fired from the 30th floor. And he's called the police. That's what he's banking on and counting on. Now, why didn't John, if he wanted to attract the police, why didn't he just set a fire or smash out a few windows, try to attract some attention to the building while he still had the element of surprise? Why didn't he do that before he decides to pull the fire alarm and alerts the bad guys to where he is?
I've got another theory of what he could have done. He knew Argyle had a phone in his car. Why not just take the stairs down to the garage, use his phone, say, look, mate, terrorist, I'm just going to use the phone, call the police. But he didn't. Like, instead he just kept on going up.
That's right.
It's like in a horror movie when the killer comes, people run up the stairs instead of running out the front door.
Exactly. Or inevitably they're running and they always fall down on the ground.
Exactly.
They always trip. Oh, shit. So then fucking Dieter from Sprockets shows up. He's one of the terrorists. And he also happens to be Carl's brother. That's going to become important. So I need to mention that Dieter from Sprockets, touch my monkey, touch it, love it. He is Carl's brother. So he comes alone for John. Never bothers to radio to the others and alert them that he found him. He just starts taunting him, right? So John kills him, right? And okay, here's where this is where it gets crazy for me. And I'm like, what the hell is he doing? Come on now. What is he doing? He takes the dead body of Dieter. By the way, his name wasn't Dieter. I'm just referring to him as Dieter because he totally looked like Dieter from Saturday Night Live. So he takes Dieter, sticks him in a chair, puts a fucking Santa Claus hat on him, and writes,
Now I have a machine gun. Ho, ho, ho.
And sends him down the elevator to the 30th floor, alerting the fucking terrorists that he now has a weapon and all this shit. He takes the guy's radio and he goes to the roof, right, to radio for help. And I have to say, this was one of my favorite parts of the movie.
The fucking pizza.
So the lady, like, sir, you shouldn't be on this channel.
Attention, whoever you are. This channel is reserved for emergency calls only.
No fucking shit, lady! Do I sound like I'm ordering a pizza?
That has to be one of the most classic lines from this movie.
It was great.
One of the other things I realized about this movie that I forgot, because it's been so many years since I watched it, he swears a lot. John McClane is a foul-mouthed trucker. I mean, he's dropping F-bombs like it's candy on Halloween.
Yeah, it's good though. I'd say if you were in the same sort of situation, Tom, you'd probably drop the odd F-bomb occasionally.
Oh, Nate, I drop the F-bomb like that on the daily. I don't even need to be in that kind of a situation. So here we go. At some point, all right, I noticed this around this time. John's white wife beater turns from white to brown. Did you notice that?
It's all the dust and stuff climbing through the elevator shaft.
Here he goes, playing devil's advocate.
I did notice it, and I went back and watched it, and it was after he went through the elevator shaft and went through some stuff, and then it slowly went to grey.
Oh, no. I want some continuity here. That was drastic. That was ridiculous. He obviously changed shirts at some point, and we didn't see it.
You're missing another bit that I liked, because after he sent down whatever you called him, with the ho-ho. With the ho-ho-ho. It's like, did John McClane used to work as an elevator repairman or a lift repairman, because he knows all the buttons to press, he knows how to open the doors, he knows what to do inside and out. I'd climb on top of a lift and I wouldn't have a clue what to do, but he knew exactly what to do.
Right.
But then again, he's a cop, so he might have known.
He might have.
But I doubt it. Didn't like that part.
It's a fair point. All right, so now they're after him. They're coming after him, right? And Carl especially, because Carl's brother Dita is dead in the elevator, and Carl's very upset about it. So Carl and his Fabio twin, they both have these long flowing blonde locks. I couldn't help but laugh. I'm like, look at these two clowns.
And they're all wearing really nice, like, jumper sweater things as well.
Right.
I couldn't work out why.
Right. They're not dressed for tactical, any kind of tactical mission. That's for sure. So John's in the vent, and that's when we get a couple more classic, iconic Die Hard lines, because there are a lot of classic one-liners in this movie. He says, come out to the coast. We'll get together, have a few laughs. Line, now I know what a TV dinner feels like. That's one of course, TV dinner is very dated because nobody has TV dinners anymore. They don't refer to them as TV dinners. But I thought that was a good line as well. So this is where I'm like, come on, give me a fucking break. He's up in the vents, the ventilation shaft. And Carl and his Fabio twin have basically located the vent that he's in. And Carl proceeds to shoot up into the vent. John has his gun out, and he's pointing it, aiming it down at Carl. Just fucking shoot him. Why aren't you shooting? He doesn't do anything. He just waits for Carl to leave. I'm like, what is he doing? Take the guy out.
I have that problem. He had so many opportunities to shoot terrorists. Once he killed the first one, I thought maybe he probably was thinking like a cop, maybe I don't kill someone, like cops have rules.
Well,
but
unfortunately, it's kill or be killed. You kill.
Yeah. And I agree that scene, it was like, just pull the fucking trigger. Just go, do it.
Right.
Dead, over with. We can move
Put him
on.
down.
But no. And a little bit before that, when they were up on the roof shooting at each other, it was like the mercenaries went to the same shooting school as stormtroopers from Star Wars.
They couldn't hit the broadside of a barn?
No, it was shocking. It was like, even when old bloody Carl sneaks up over the top of the roof, why wouldn't he just wait till he had a perfect shot, because he didn't know he was there, but he just jumps over and starts it was some of the worst shooting I've seen since the Star Wars movie. But it was the
Agreed.
80s, so...
All right, so now enter Sergeant Al Powell.
Welcome to the party, pal!
This is going to be the plucky sidekick character for John McClane, because every hero needs his plucky sidekick.
And he makes a quick cameo in Die Harder.
That's right. So Sergeant Al Powell is called to Nakatomi because the girl who John said, do I sound like I'm ordering a fucking pizza, finally says, okay, send a white and black, or a black and white, which I guess refers to just a normal beat cop. Send a black and white over to check out Nakatomi Plaza. So they send Sergeant Al Powell. And he just wants to go home because it's Christmas Eve, goddammit. He wants to go home, eat his ho-hos. He went to in true cop fashion, very stereotypical cop fashion, he stopped at the convenience store and bought a shit ton of fucking snacks and terrible food. And he just wanted to go home and pig out on Christmas Eve. But he gets called to go check out Nakatomi, so he does. And the terrorist, who looks like Huey Lewis, answers the door to greet him. And that's all I could think of the entire fucking movie. Every time they showed that guy, I'm like, fucking Huey Lewis. Any second now, I expect that guy to break out into I Want a New Drug. Like, I thought it was Huey Lewis. So he answers the door and lets him in. He checks the place out. Everything's good. Nothing crazy is going on. And he leaves. Now, finally, John McClane gets the idea to throw something out the window and attract some attention. So how does he do it? He takes a dead terrorist guy and just tosses him out the window right onto Al Powell's police car. Which is brilliant. But again, why didn't he do that earlier? Like, before they knew that he was there, why didn't he just throw a bunch of shit out the window and draw some attention to the place?
I'll play devil's advocate.
Okay, go ahead.
It does seem like Nakatomi Plaza is actually a bit secluded. There seems to be a lot of area around the building that is unoccupied. So I'm just wondering if that's why it wouldn't have made much sense, like just breaking windows and stuff.
All right, but what if he started a fire? That would definitely attract people, and they would see that.
Yeah, it starts a fire, it burns down the whole tower, and they all die anyway.
Good point. All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
You're not letting me smash this to pieces. Stop trying to fucking justify everything, goddammit. That's not what we do here.
Oh, excuse me, you played devil's advocate last week.
All right, you're right. All right, so there was another classic line that John McClane said, and it was a little nod to his back in the 80s. The other big action star was, of course, Arnold Schwarzenegger. So he had to make sure he said that there was enough plastic explosives in the building to orbit Arnold Schwarzenegger. I thought that was pretty funny. that was a good line. So he's talking to Al, right? He on the walkie-talkie. He's got Al on, and Al's conversing with him down below. And he's filling Al in, letting him know what's going on. Now, Hans Gruber, he's a man with a mission, and he only has so much time to achieve this mission, right? So he tells his nerdy hacker guy, who is supposed to hurry up and finish breaking into the safe. He's like, hurry up, stop talking to me and get done what you have to get done. Right after he tells him that, the nerdy hacker guy stops trying to break into the safe, stops what he's doing so he can listen to John and Al chat on the radio. Like, where's your sense of urgency, dude? Hans just told you got to get this shit done. Why are you listening to these two fucking guys speaking code?
And then soon after that, he becomes the eyes and ears on the monitors. Like, why couldn't they just got someone else to do that later when the cops are trying to break in? Right.
He should be focused on the safe.
Yeah.
Super multitasking. He's breaking into safes. He's monitoring all the monitor. Like, why couldn't Huey Lewis do that? What else was he doing?
Exactly. That gets me to one of my next points. Do you remember when the cops are trying to break into the front doors of the plaza?
I think you are going to bring up the same exact thing that I'm about to, but you go first.
So one cop tries to open it, like pick the lock of the door to try and get in. Oh, that's not working. Get the oxy torch out and try and cut through it. And then the whole time I'm just saying, these doors are made of glass. Just break the glass and just walk in.
Okay, well, that's not what I was going to say, but yes, you're right.
And I was just thinking, why take so long? You didn't even need to go through the front door. Like, the whole front of the building is glass. You could have picked a bit over the side, just break the glass, sneak in, you're done. But for some reason, they wanted to try and pick the lock. Then they wanted to try and blow the torch open, like the oxy torch, to get it open. And the whole time, all they had to do was smash the glass and walk straight in.
Yep. Well, my biggest problem with this scene was the fact that Hans told his guys, he said, don't kill them, just wound the cops. Shoot to wound. What? So they only wound the cops that are trying to break in the door. 2 minutes later, a police RV, one of those armored tank RVs, pulls up. And what do? Does Hans tell them just to shoot to wound? No. They bust out a fucking rocket launcher, and they shoot repeatedly, rocket after rocket at this thing, and blow it up. What? Why? Okay, why do you tell them to only wound these cops, but you're shooting rockets to try to kill these cops? What is? You see the inconsistencies here? Like, what sense does that make?
I can try and make sense of it if you like, or you would like me not to.
No, go ahead.
I understand their eventual plan was to all of them leave in an ambulance at the end, so they needed wounded people, but they didn't want that armoured truck to actually get into the building. That's the only... It doesn't really make all that much sense, but that's the only thing I can think of.
I'll go with that. I'll take that in. Fine. They get away with that. I won't smash that to pieces.
We're not even halfway through the movie yet, Tom, so I'm pretty sure you got lots left to talk about.
I know, this is a 2 hour and 12-minute long movie, folks. It's a long one. It's a long burn. It's a classic, though. So, all right. So, Deputy Chief of Police Dwayne T. Robinson shows up. This guy, fucking guy right here.
Do you want to see? I'll just tell you my notes about this guy. It's
well, one thing I have to say. Usually in a movie, you get one douchebag character. This movie gave you 3 fucking douchebag characters. How awesome is that? Not only did you get Deputy Chief Dwayne T. Robinson, douchebag, but you got that idiot Ellis, douchebag, okay, the one who was hitting on McClane's wife through the whole movie and then tried turning him into Hans, that guy's a douchebag. And you have the granddaddy of all fucking douchebags, Nate. You know who I'm talking about?
I'm assuming it's the FBI agent.
No. The granddaddy of all douchebags. If I can find it in my notes. Give me 1 second. William Atherton. You may know him better as Mr. Peck from the Ghostbusters, the original Ghostbusters. Remember Peck?
I can't say I do.
The guy who...
yes, sorry.
You know, Dickless, the one who said, yes, sir, it's...
Everything was fine with our system until the power grid was shut off by Dickless here.
They caused an explosion.
Is this true?
Yes, it's true. This man has no dick.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mr. Peck plays Richard Thornburg, the news guy. And he is your third douchebag in this movie. So you got 3 douchebags for the price of 1 in Die Hard, baby.
I'd even go as far as to say the FBI agents were douchebags as well.
Well, they were too. But, okay, give me your notes on Deputy Chief of Police Dwayne T. Robinson, because he was a douchebag.
Oh, my notes are pretty much is that why are all heads of police departments in the 80s such knobs?
Exactly.
It's like, you have to believe at some point that they were cops, and they slowly built their way up for being good cops, and then going and progressing their career. But for some reason, the dumbest person at that site was the head of the department. It was just like, how the fuck does that happen?
And he's always the guy in charge is always the one in total disagreement with your main character.
Yeah.
Or in this case, Al Powell, the sidekick of your main character. Like, they had to be arguing constantly. He could never agree with anything coming out of his mouth.
Now, I understand that it's a bit of a cliche, and I will let Die Hard get away with it because it's maybe one of the first times it was used like that, so I will let them off because it was the 80s. But still, why can't we just have cops that are actually good at their jobs?
Yeah, like the guys in charge. Absolutely.
Yeah. But anyway.
Acting like they know what they're doing. I agree. So that brought us to another great line when Al Powell says to Dwayne Robinson, "Why don't you wake up and smell what you shoveling?" It's one of my favorite fucking lines. Classic Die Hard line. Okay.
All right, I'm going to move this along. One of my nitpicks about John McClane, when he gets hold of the detonators and he knows that Hans really wants them back.
Oh, thank you for this. This was going to be one of mine as well.
Now, I understand that he used some to blow up the building, but he still had them with him. Why wouldn't he just get that bag and throw it off the building?
Exactly.
Why wouldn't he get that bag and hide it somewhere? He's got, probably 45 floors of building to hide this bag somewhere. Why is he still carrying it around with him? It makes no sense whatsoever.
Exactly. My other issue is how he found out that Hans wanted the bag of detonators. So he's up in the top floors, under the roof there, and he finds Hans poking around. And Hans pretends to be an escaped prisoner, like one of the hostages that got away. So he gives Hans the gun, and I'm thinking, oh my God, what an idiot, right? But no, he was smart. He didn't load the gun. So when Hans turned it on him and he realized Hans was the bad guy, the gun was empty and he couldn't do anything. Why at that point didn't he immediately shoot Hans? Why didn't he fucking take his ass out? You could have ended this movie 36 minutes earlier. Just take his ass out. You got him dead to rights. He's unarmed. Kill him. Just kill him. I know it's against the code, but look what this guy has done. He deserves to die. It's the only way you're going to get rid of him. Or at least shoot him and wound him. You know what I mean? Okay, don't kill him. Shoot him in the kneecaps. Do something.
Tie him to somewhere. Do something.
Something. So, and like you said, he finds out that he wants the bag of detonators. Get rid of the fucking detonators. Obviously, they can't blow up the building if they don't have the detonators.
I don't think John McClane is the smartest tool in the shed, to be honest.
True.
Another quick nitpick that I got is that Hans is part of that German militia group. I can't remember what it was called. Surely he's used guns before and would know whether a gun was loaded or not loaded.
Yes.
Because I watch a lot of movies and stuff, and they can always tell by the weight. They know when it's loaded and not loaded. So, not very professional at all.
So, he runs into that same room, right, where they're under construction. Is that where they end up? I'm like, it's been it's been almost a week since I watched it.
Yeah, basically, as he was just about to teach Hans a lesson, the guys come up in the lift and John McClane runs into that room, excuse me, with the glass partitions, because that's what you would do. You put the glass up first before you fix the rest of the room.
So what do? Hans tells Carl, shoot out the glass. So they do, because he knows he's barefoot.
This is one of my biggest nitpicks coming up, Tom.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure it's one of mine too. So he leaves the bag of detonators and he makes his escape, right? And obviously he has to run across the broken glass barefoot.
You would think that there would be a bit of blood.
Not only would you think, but in the next scene where you see him, he's dragging his ass into a room and there is a big smear of blood behind him from his bleeding feet.
Oh, some people might call that like a trail of blood.
Yeah, you might be able to track someone if they left a trail of blood, wouldn't you?
Oh, I would assume so.
Unless you're these stupid German terrorists, a.k.a. thieves.
Every chance they get to kill him, or just all they have to do is just take one more step. They've seen, oh no, we'll go do something else. It's like, why? Why wouldn't you just... Oh, it was so annoying. Just because Hans said, oh, we've got the detonators, we'll go back to the original plan.
Right. Even though Carl was bloodthirsty to take him out because he killed his brother Dieter.
Yeah, it was just like, oh my god, really? I never realised that watching when I was younger, but it was just such a big plot point that I didn't understand. Open that exit door, big trail of blood going up to wherever he is. At this point, he's dragging his feet and he has no gun. Well, he might have a gun, but who cares? But he's dragging his feet and the trail leads right to the bathroom. All he had to do is open that door, shoot him, John McClane. You don't get 4 more sequels.
That's right. And you probably get away with what you're doing.
Exactly. And I've only got one more nitpick after that, Tom.
Well, I got a couple, but I'll let you do yours.
No, mine's at the end of the movie, so I'll let you.
So Carl then gets the drop on John. He has him dead to rights with his gun, but he doesn't kill him. He's been shooting at him the whole fucking movie. Why does he stop to fight him hand to hand at that point and moment?
Because it looks cool.
They have this knockdown drag out fight, which is great, by the way. I love it when he says to Carl, I'm going to fucking kill you, I'm going to fucking cook you, and I'm going to fucking eat you. That's another one of my favorite John McClane lines. Then he hangs him from the chain and just tosses him, and he just leaves him hanging against the wall there. So
I looked at it again, not quite dead, because I think he might be able to make a small cameo at the end of the movie.
Well, yes, of course, obviously.
Yes.
So then we get to the biggest action sequence, the iconic roof explosion scene. And I'm sure you have some problems with this, as do I.
Not particularly.
Okay. Well, the logistics of it, I mean, him tying himself to the fire hose and using the fire hose to jump off the building just as it explodes. And the fact that the explosion didn't cause that fire hose reel to just get shot into outer... Like, John McClane would have been slingshot into the atmosphere by the force of the explosion, tied to the other end of that hose. I mean, if we're dealing with true physics.
There's definitely not true physics in this. It's like when he fell down the elevator shaft and he grabbed hold of one of the air vents.
Yes, and caught himself.
Yeah, it's like you fell so quick and hard, your shoulders would have been popped out and you would have been fucking limp as all shit.
That's right.
But anyway, back to the jumping off the building with the fire hose. One of the more iconic scenes in cinema, I must say.
That's so cool. Looked cool. Looked awesome.
Obviously, all the C4 was on the other side of the roof, and that's how he got away with it.
There you go. Fair enough. I'll go with that. But this leads to one of my other favorite lines from this movie, and they wasted it on that douchebag Deputy Dwayne guy. They gave it to the douchebag. They gave him one of the greatest lines of the movie. So the FBI are in the helicopter, and it's right next to the roof when it explodes. So naturally, the helicopter gets caught in the blast, and the helicopter goes down and explodes. And Paul Gleason, who plays Deputy Chief Dwayne T. Robinson, has my favorite line in the movie. They gave my favorite line of the entire movie to this asshole. He says, "Holy Christ, we're going to need some more FBI guys, I guess." It's easily the funniest and my favorite line of the entire movie, and they gave it to this fucking putz. Why didn't Al Powell say that? Why wouldn't you give that to Al? All right, so let's speed up to the end here. So then they have the final showdown between him and Hans, and he gets the drop on Hans and shoots him, and Hans falls back out through the broken window and grabs hold of John McClane's wife, and this is where the all-important Rolex gift comes in. See, they mentioned in the beginning she got a Rolex gift from her boss, the Rolex watch, and of course the watch catches on Hans's coat, so he's dragging her out the window with him, and they have to take the watch off and drop the watch to let Hans fall to his death. So that happens. And then Paul Gleason, Deputy Dwayne T. Robinson, gets my second favorite line of the movie. Oh, I hope that's not a hostage. When Hans is falling to his death.
He's such a fucking knob character.
Why is this douchebag getting all the best lines right now? What is going on? What are these writers thinking?
I wonder if it's because of who the actual actor was. I'd have to imagine. I'm going to take you a step back to when John actually has the gun taped to his back.
Yes, do, please.
How fucking hard would that be?
Right.
I can barely, you try and touch your hands behind you. To do something like that would have taken about 15, 20 minutes, I reckon.
I agree.
And he was all, I don't take that much notice of men, but he was very sweaty.
Yes.
And it was only Christmas tape. So I'm guessing that's not the good stuff. And it was stuck there pretty good and proper. And
right.
I have no idea how he got it on there.
It would have been more believable that he taped it to his lower back, because you could reach around your lower back and grab it there. That would make a hell of a lot more sense. I mean, I understand he had to have his hands above his head, so it needed to be near the top of his head for him to grab it behind his shoulder. But yeah, you're right. That's a smash. You can smash that to pieces. That's a big nitpick.
Smash! That's a big smash to pieces. And that is my last. I'm not even going to mention the guy coming back from being hung.
You don't have to. You don't have to, because that's awful that happened. Fucking Carl comes back. And if you're Carl and you survived all that, would you come out and face and challenge hundreds of cops outside by yourself with one gun? Would you do that?
Well,
I mean, come on.
At that point, he's angry enough, but before, when he had the chance to kill him, he wasn't angry enough. So
right, exactly.
We have to get into the character's head and understand what's going on here.
He should have made his escape. Then he could have been in the sequel. The dope.
He could have been the main antagonist in Die Hard with a Vengeance.
That's right. Instead of Jeremy Irons,
which I'm going to say is my favourite Die Hard movie.
That's a good one.
But anyway.
All right, so this is my last bit that I'm going to smash to pieces, and then we'll wrap this up. Instead of going in an ambulance to get his wounds treated, like his cut feet and everything else that happened to him, he hops in the limo with Argyle and his wife, and Argyle drives them home. The end. Come on, man.
He's a fucking rock star, Tom.
But his feet are fucking bloodied and gashed, and they need to be treated, Nate. They need treatment.
Oh.
He could barely walk at one point.
I noticed, at one point he could barely walk, and then by the end of it he's like running around again and doing what he has to do. Yeah. There were some continuity issues in this movie, for sure.
A few.
Obviously, the white singlet turned very dark and grey very quick. And like I said, it may have happened when he was in the elevator shafts or the vents, but those vents were probably the cleanest vents I've ever seen in my life.
Agreed.
It was like almost like, to be fair, it was a new building under construction. So I'm going to smash myself there and say, shut up, Nathan.
Yeah, there might have been a lot of dust. A lot of dust.
But anyway, that's all I've got to say about the great movie that is Die Hard. And as we always say, I love this movie. And that is why this is hard to do sometimes.
It's such a absolute classic of a movie. And it is a Christmas movie. You can definitely dub this a Christmas movie and categorize it a Christmas movie. It's
Christmas themed throughout.
Yeah, and all the credit music is Christmas music. Everything about it's very Christmassy.
Yeah, there's Christmas hats. They mention ho ho ho. There's Christmas trees. Everything about Christmas.
That's right. And what makes you feel more like Christmas than Die Hard? I mean, come on.
It's the only movie I watch at Christmas.
Exactly. Well, that and Scrooged with Bill Murray. I love that movie as well. It's classic. Niagara Falls, Frankie Angel. So, yeah, but Die Hard is an absolute classic. Thank you, Bruce Willis, for giving us this movie. Thank you, 1988, for being so cheesy and wonderful. And Alan Rickman put in a performance of the ages as Hans Gruber. May he rest in peace, Alan Rickman. You were legend Alan Rickman.
It's very sad watching a movie with a known actor that died. And he died pretty young as well, which is very disappointing.
He did. But what an iconic role for him, and definitely defined the villain role going forward, I think.
Yeah.
But that's it. That's Die Hard, and we have completed smashing it to pieces.
Smash! If you want to find us on Twitter, it's at Smash2piece, and it's Smash the number 2 piece.
Absolutely. And let us know what you think of this particular episode, and if you have any movies you would like to hear us smash to pieces in future episodes, feel free to throw them out there. We're always welcome to suggestions.
Exactly.
Do we have any idea what we're going to do for episode 3 yet, Nate?
I don't even know what I'm doing after I get off this call, Tom, so probably not.
Right, well, and that's going to do it for this particular episode of Smash2piece Theatre. My name is Tom Van Zant.
And I've been Nate the Aussie Appleby.
Thanks for listening. We will talk to you again soon.
Later.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Thank you for joining us on Smash2piece Theatre. I've been Alistair Cook. Yes, I've been here all along. Good night.
Captain Fact here. This has been an Aussie and Pom production.